The Really Charlie Podcast, making memories last. Your time, my time, we all shine on the Really Charlie Podcast. It's the Really Charlie Podcast, making memories last. Your time, my time, we all shine on the Really Charlie Podcast. It's the Really Charlie Podcast, making memories last. Your time, my time, we all shine on the Really Charlie Podcast. It's the Really Charlie Podcast, making memories last. Your time, my time, we all shine on the Really Charlie Podcast. It's the Really Charlie Podcast, making memories last. Your time, my time, we all shine on the Really Charlie Podcast. It's the Really Charlie Podcast, making memories last. Your time, my time, we all shine on the Really Charlie Podcast. It's the Really Charlie Podcast, making memories last. Your time, my time, we all shine on the Really Charlie Podcast. It's the Really Charlie Podcast, making memories last. Your time, my time, we all shine on the Really Charlie Podcast. It's the Really Charlie Podcast, making memories last. Your time, my time, we all shine on the Really Charlie Podcast. It's the Really Charlie Podcast, making memories last. Your time, my time, we all shine on the Really Charlie Podcast. It's the Really Charlie Podcast, making memories last. Your time, my time, we all shine on the Really Charlie Podcast. It's the Really Charlie Podcast, making memories last. Your time, my time, we all shine on the Really Charlie Podcast.
It's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Bump into your broadcast, grab a chair, fill your glass. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Bump into your broadcast, grab a chair, fill your glass.
Hey, welcome to the Really Charlie Podcast. Today I am deep inside the Perry kitchen. Decided I want to be in this little cozy corner over here and kind of chill out and just kind of do my thing downstairs. All right. And so just waiting for my co-host to come on, and we are going to definitely start talking about fentanyl and giving you some facts about fentanyl. All right. This we are both involved with Achieve Greatness 88.org. And we are just trying to save some lives, as Paula says. All right, here she is. And there we go. What's up, Paula? How you doing?
Hey, I'm tired today.
You tired?
Today I am tired because Achieve Greatness is planning another very, very big forum. I will make sure to give you all the details once everything is complete and solidified and confirmed. But we're going to have some amazing guest speakers. We're going to have Jim come from Families Against Fentanyl. We're going to have someone come who actually worked in the White House under the drug and addiction program.
Nice.
2 Harvard professors are going to come and speak. I'm hoping that the Attorney General will come. That's going to be for this month in December, either the 14th or the 15th. So definitely, Charlie, put it on your calendar, and I'll let everyone know once it's confirmed where we're doing it and what time. But yeah, that's what I've been doing today. and of course, dealing with the wonderful politics that comes with all of it.
Yeah. And it's so hard and difficult, and it's shameful sometimes to deal with when it comes to the politics. And you think that some things are easy or common sense, and
Right.
it's like common sense doesn't apply sometimes,
No.
But you keep on fighting the fight. You keep doing what you're doing because it's amazing, and nobody can say anything less than amazing what you're doing, because you're doing it. And
Thank you. Thank you.
So you keep
well,
on.
It's not just me. It's Phil. It's all of you, because Achieve Greatness is not just Paula. Achieve Greatness is all of us, and of course Phil, and all of us together. Although I might be boots on the ground and heels on the ground, as my moms like to say, I still come to you all sometimes when I need you, and you're right there. So I will never say that anything that I have done to this date is just Paula Santos Young. It's Achieve Greatness and the wonderful people we have standing with us.
Of course. And got a powerful group. They all done.
Seriously, come on, of course.
Yeah, we actually, when you think of it, the combination of people that are involved, there's so many things that they've done on their own. Never mind.
Yeah.
Now we're all together to do some things. And I see Roy's in studio. Once I see his face, and I can add him on.
Perfect. Let's bring him in.
All right. What's going on, Roy? How you doing?
Good. How about yourself?
Well, if I had to wear a suit and tie, I would have wore one. But you're gonna end up
accountable to that next time.
You're gonna end up being the best dressed host here.
Yeah. Yeah.
You gotta wear one. I was at the library committee downtown. Boy, these are interesting times we're dealing with, huh?
Sure is.
Frightening. And,
yeah.
in so many ways, challenging, of course. But we're now looking at the opportunity of a new way of taking a community forward.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the purpose of our discussion today.
Exactly.
How does one move a community forward? Because if we don't, we're going to lose them, and they'll lose interest, and then the next thing is going to be some other issue that they find to be more interesting, and we will continue to die in the streets, and they'll let us.
So
Roy, I would love for you to introduce yourself to the audience, please. And just to let you know, Charlie is the wonderful, I'm the co-host, but Charlie is the actual host. Charlie put this together in memory of my son, Andrew, who Charlie knew very, very well. This is something we do weekly. We have many guest speakers who come on. And it's something for everyone from YouTube, Facebook, because it's streaming live, to the other platforms. all coming together and understanding what we're doing and having partners like you who are willing to come on here and say, hey, we're working together. We're not working against each other.
Right.
Absolutely.
But we would love for you to introduce yourself, say how you about, and actually kind of how we met, because this is the first time we're seeing each other. We're always talking on the phone.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You kind of look like your voice, but that's okay too. With that,
Really? See, that's wow. I've never been told that. That's what. Wow, that's different. I look like my voice.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
It's
and
a
that's
good
why they
thing.
have family therapy, but we won't talk about that now either.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know.
Actually, we will in tonight's discussion. We have to.
Yeah.
So my name's Roy Poyan, and I came about this from families talking to me and addressing just their hardship. And my background is in disease management modeling, asthma, diabetes. What I mean by that is I worked with the second largest home health agency in the United States. So we had a lot of girth and credibility. And we looked at these patients coming out of the hospital, and they obviously required other care than what they were initially, prescribed for their primary diagnosis. And we determined that if we manage them as a disease and we manage them outside the acute care setting where this environment takes place, then we will get more, bang for your dollar or better outcomes for certain. And so that required that we gathered up the right protocols, put them into a kind of an algorithm of care and treatment, coordinated and restructured the strategy of how care was delivered, how it was managed. And the only way you can do that is if you're the payer. So disease management is driven by two things: money and time. And then what you do with your money is you apply it towards a strategy, a concept, a strategy, structure, process, and policies, procedures, and implementation based on time. So what we ended up doing was really outperforming the standards of care. Humana and other groups enjoyed it greatly. We were coming in at risk, financial risk for asthma. That's how much confidence we had in the protocol. And the only reason that I would take that to heart now is that we're dealing with a disease. I think we can all agree to that. Yeah. If you've looked at the science behind the neurology and seen the kind of mind mapping that we're able to do from technology and scanning, it's very evident. The dopamine and the synapse and the reuptake inhibitors, all of these we've been studying for a long time for other reasons, like depression and other. So we've been able to apply previous sciences, which accelerated our understanding of addiction. But up to now, addiction has pretty much been in the realm of behaviors. So the behavioral sciences really had a kind of like the field of understanding, whereas medical came in a little bit later, but certainly has an equal play, if not more of a play now, in how we create our delivery system. The only problem is we didn't redesign the delivery system. I mean, when this all started in the 70s and people were coming back from the Vietnam War, we were able to take our hospitals and our addiction, what we had, and we said, well, let's just make them stronger and better. Mm-hmm. Nobody ever thought, let's go home with them. Nobody ever thought, let's engage the family. Because when we're done with them, that's what we're giving them back to. And that's where they relapse. And that's where, unfortunately, if it does happen, that's where they die. They don't have these occurrences at acute care settings, brick and mortar locations. So with the few times that we've done disease management modeling in the past with substance use disorders, we've done it out of a hospital. Well, that's ridiculous. Come on down here and lie to me and tell me that you've got good nutrition and that everything's going well in your life, and I'll let you go. And then we'll mark you down as being, we saw you this month. Or go into the home with a home health nurse whose sole purpose is educating and writing down what they saw, and have them meet with the person in their reality. Bill, are you eating correctly? Sure. Okay, but I see White Castle hamburger boxes all over the place, and you've got mayonnaise and something that looks like ham in the refrigerator. That's the first step. That's the first relapse. It's called self-care. There are 3 stages to relapse. Don't you think the family should know that?
True.
Okay, we can build their awareness of it, but we got to give them knowledge. And by that, I mean, we have to tell them that there are 3 steps. There are 3 stages to relapse. The first stage is self-care. This is what you'll see. And we don't want to be the police. We don't want to turn the family members standing there waiting for the next shoe to drop off. But when they start to see it, their early intervention will mean everything. So why don't we build their knowledge? Well, primarily because we don't have curriculum. Well, how come we don't have curriculum? Because there's nobody to bill. Oh, back to that again. Okay. So who are we going to bill for if I sat up there and said, I'm going to put a family solution finder learning center inside of Lowell, Massachusetts. And these family members can come to this learning center and they will learn 32 key issues of what they need to know before they need to apply it. They're going to know about drug court before they even have to go to it. By the way, if they're addicted, you're going to drug court. They can't hold a job. Where are they going to get the money for their habit? They're going to steal. Well, eventually they'll get sloppy. They'll get caught. Well, are they going to go to criminal court or drug court? Well, wasn't this a drug that drove them to do that? Yes. Well, fortunately, our society is starting to see that. And the legal system has done a really good job in catching up with that by creating these other types of channels for us to consider. But the fact is, did we get them that information? Do we even know that Bill has an addiction? Well, in seminar of the 32 seminars that we created to educate the family, in seminar number 10, it's called Get a Diagnosis. And that means you get a diagnosis for addiction, for mental health, dual diagnoses, and for medical comorbidities. Well, why medical? Well, because if they've been using heroin for some time, they probably have the possibility of a cardiac valve or other types of cardiitis or other types of cardiac complications. If they've been smoking what they've been taking, like spice and other things, it could be that they have broken glass syndrome, pulmonary. Those things play on this person's health, which is a part of the first stage, self-help. Stage 1, self-care. Okay, they're not taking care of themselves because medically they're not doing well, but we didn't even think to figure that out. Well, if we had a process outside of acute care where we manage them, you see, after 16 weeks, they're done. They go to an aftercare program for maybe a year, half a year, intermittently, but nobody's really following them. So with that in mind, what if the family knew how to follow them? What if we just, in a very light touch, said, at this learning center in Lowell, you come down and we are running seminars. We'll give you a home library with all 32 and a TV production so that you can pull them down as you need them. We want you to be smart. That's how we beat the HIV/AIDS epidemic. We got smart. We got organized. We didn't count on government. Okay? We ourselves as families said, this hurts. It hurts so much. We're not waiting around for you. We need to stop waiting for some organization to come in and help us. We just need to get smart.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Roy, what do you think about the current, because I was going to ask you this anyway because we spoke. What do you think about the current crisis that's literally crippling our country right now?
Oh, that's a loaded question. I mean, when you look at something that's designed in this way, this is just evil. It's just pure evil. Let's say this, Paula. Let's say, understand what you're dealing with. It's kind of a Sun Tzu Chinese war, ancient philosophy. Know your enemy. Know your enemy and you'll know your battle. Okay? So we've got the Sonolia families down in Mexico buying the precursors from China. That's not something we can really put a barrel around. We've got people coming over the border. Well, we really messed that up with open borders. That's just lunacy. And now we've got basically I-70, I-95, I-5, all of these major highways. They're odd numbers if they're running north-south. 77, straight down from Huntsville, Phoenix, Miami, and they take large quantities. A kilo will cost around, when it comes in at that stage, it's much less expensive. So they're in and around $8,000 to $12,000 for a kilo. That profitability, when it's broken down on the streets, is somewhere around $1.2 million in dime bags. All right. Wow. Well, How do you count that? Will you use a counting machine in the same place, the same floor, the third floor of that broken down building, or that suburb out in the suburbs, that house that never seems to do much, but at night it rocks? The fact is, they're counting money. They've got 3 cash machines. They got 16 magic bullets there, and they're mixing. They even stamp the little envelopes with a logo, so they know what their inventory is. The person comes back and says, "I want the Smiley Lemon," and they're like, "No, we got Charlie Green Giant now." This is like 7-Eleven distribution. It comes up. We cut it. We put it on the streets. We collect the cash. We count the cash. We put it in rubber bands and in duffel bags. We take out a little for our team here, and then we send it on down. At the next station, they take a little bit out. They're supposed to. They got people to pay off, and then it gets back to the Sonoma families. This is a war of families right now. It's their families in Mexico that are profiting from this. And that means it's their family against the American family. This is genocide. Now that it's poison, it's genocide. The game has changed totally. With fentanyl and xylazine and other drugs that are superimposed by molecular composition, we can expect it's just going to get worse. And so for that reason, these aren't people from Iceland coming in on our streets. These are our family members that are driving it up the highway. It's our family members up in those rooms, cutting it, weighing it, and then getting it down on the streets. It's our families doing the thuggery to make sure you don't interrupt the supply chain. This is a battle of the family, the American family, and we're losing. We're losing because we're just ignorant about what's going on. We don't have to be. All the sciences are there. All the techniques and technology are in place. They've been in place for some time now. We just never included the family. So with that in mind, what are we going to do about it? Well, let's set up family learning centers in every state, several per state. And the purpose of the family learning center is to educate the community within services and also the family members. Let's give it to them in their homes so they can take it on a TV episode. And that's what we designed. I'm not trying to sell my service because I don't sell it. I'm giving it to you at no cost. I can't buy the books for you. Those are on Amazon. But I'll give you the books in a PDF. You can download it. It's 400 pages.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the politicians? Because obviously you and I spoke about this too, but I just want the audience to hear that know what's happening in their streets, know what's happening in their community, in their towns. 4 doors down, they just lost somebody. Especially here in Massachusetts, you're not hearing anything, and Charlie can attest to this. I mean, we at Achieve Greatness are doing everything in our power to bring forth awareness, advocacy, and education about this because it needs to be done. We here in my city have lost quite a few people, and then Massachusetts alone in 2022 lost almost 2,400 people. So when you look at the numbers and how staggering they are, I think people forget that there's 365 days in a year, and we lost 2,400. So do the math, because that makes that this is just what we're losing. And they're predicting that this year will be worse. And then in general, nationwide, as you know, we lost over 109,000 just last year. And this year they're predicting the number is going to be higher.
So you asked me a question in the beginning of that, and thank you. Those numbers are appalling. I mean, for a developed country to be so far behind itself and act like, we're trying. We are trying. I get it. There's some great people. There's some people that are so intelligent. They poured a lot of that into this. It's not that we haven't been doing anything, but in suggesting what could be done, what does the coach know about what they can do to help this person that comes into school, doesn't play well, is crying in the locker, the team is left, and he says, "What's up?" And she says, "My brother's addicted to heroin. And my family is up all night. We've been screaming at each other for weeks. I failed my history test. My life is a mess, coach." What did we do as a society to prepare the coach for that? We could have.
Right.
If you had a learning center, they could actually, do an in-service for the coaches. So what about the guidance counselor at a high school? Oh, well, Roy, they've got DARE. Stop, really. What are we doing? And then the answer is, how are we engaging in the stakeholders? Well, who are the stakeholders? Your pastor. What have we done to arm your pastor with knowledge that they can pass to the person? We got a book called From Pastor to Family Table. They could hand them that book. They could go home and start 12 of the seminars online. So we can start building these things through the community portals. That would include the emergency. It includes the utility company. When I walk in and I say to the person, I need to turn my father's water back on, they could sit there and say, is this have anything to do with substance use disorders? And I would say, yes, my father's an alcoholic and he'd rather drink it than drink it. So he let the bill go and now you turn the water off. So that person at that time could give them the book From Community Agencies to Family Table. We haven't armed our community with the ability to respond to this, not raise their awareness, give them knowledge that they can transfer that knowledge to these people. And then what do you mean by knowledge? Well, there's 10 types of enabling, Paula. Anybody in your family doing one of them?
Oh,
So
yeah.
We all do it,
Yeah.
Well, stop it. Well, what would I do? Well, okay, are you protecting the family image? That's one. That's number 8 of the 10. How about, because this is all in the book, how about justifying it? Well, Bob should be able to smoke a little pot. I mean, it's just pot. It's not like he's taking crack. Okay, that's justification. You're enabling them. Okay, well, let's move on. How about allowance? I'd rather he do it here than down on the streets. Okay, that's enabling. You might be doing 3 of them. Well, if his sister is sitting there saying, I helped him by giving him a ride down so he could go pick up his next fix. Okay, that's enabling. Oh no, I'm just not bad. He's hurting. He's my brother. Stop it.
Yeah.
The other family is like, no, it's not. Okay, let's talk about boundary setting. Well, who's going to teach it? We learned this in high school. Who's going to teach mom about stop doing that? You've got to set up boundaries. Well, she'll say, you're right, I do. And then we say, well, what are you going to do? And she said, well, I'm not quite sure. Okay, I'll tell you what. The boundaries, who are they set around? Well, set around him because we have to control him. The answer is you cannot control him. You can only control yourself. I know that sounds like fluffy. The boundaries are for you, not him. If you don't know that, our society is really hurting. And I can tell you, a lot of us don't know that. We got to set the boundaries around us. Well, what does that look like? Listen, I'll tell you what, Jack, I told you last time that one of my boundaries is I will not be in your presence while you're stoned. And you look stoned. So either one of us is going to leave or we're not going to be in the same room together. Sorry, that's the rule. I'm not going to break my boundaries. And I'm not trying to control you. I'm doing this for me. So how about if we teach them that down at the local learning center?
Yeah.
Game on. There's 3 stages to relapse. There is self-care, there is the mental, and then there's the physical. Self-care, he's not attending his NA meetings. He's showing up late to work. He's not eating well. All right. Well, that's a relapse. That's considered by SAMHSA and NIH as a relapse. So now he moves on to, he starts to make statements like, it wasn't so bad. I mean, now that I've been straight for a little while, I can kind of see it for what it is.
Oh, he's frozen.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's try again. All right. Paula, let's talk about I'm going to bring this up. I'll bring up the flyer here. All right. We have a special event from Achieve Greatness fundraiser that's going to be September and March 9th, 2024, 6 p.m. to midnight. We'll have a dinner buffet, music, and magic. We also have a silent auction. The entertainment is provided by, what was it, Joaquin Santos, right?
Yes.
Jackie.
Joaquin Santos and the Dope
Joaquin
Lotus.
Santos, and let's see, get this a little bit bigger for my eyes.
DJ Fresco, magician Will Fern. Everyone can look him up on YouTube. He's amazing. Roy, are you back?
I'm here.
Oh, he's back. Okay.
All right. Let me get rid of this.
You were frozen for a while, so we had to occupy the time, but you were talking in reference to enabling.
Okay, I'm still seeing your flyer over my.
Yeah,
picture.
that's why I'm getting rid of it
Okay,
right now.
you're fine. I'm not
We
complaining.
want to show you a nice, beautiful suit.
Yes, there.
So I don't know if that's got a glare problem.
I
That,
can see it, but I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
that's
Um,
32 learning seminars. Okay, it takes you through um, the entire journey. So finances. How do you manage finances in SUD? It's a lifelong disease. It's not going away. We have this impression that if we drop them off at the rehab center, they're going to fix them. They don't fix anything. Okay, they help you learn how to manage your life now with this disease. If this was asthma, we wouldn't say to them, "Well, okay, get better, and then you'll be back into the family." You know, it's the behavior, and that's why we treat them this way. Either way, it's a disease: asthma, substance use disorder, diabetes, congestive heart failure, COPD. They're all alike in their chronicness. But we learn to adjust our lives around it because this is so dramatic in behavior. It affects the family dynamic. The family is a system, and when one starts to reverberate, all of them start to reverberate. The more they reverberate, the more the family reverberates. And the fact is, you're all reverberating because this person's spending their time with drugs. So not only is the person involved with the drugs, but every member of the family is now involved with the drugs. The whole family unit is impacted. The whole dynamic changes. It'll never go back to the way it was. So I think we need to build the knowledge of people to know if you're dealing with addiction, your new norm is you're dealing with addiction because it's not going to go away. We'll learn to manage our lives. If we can get them to the 5-year marker, it's not an endpoint, but 5 years abstinence and sobriety, they drop to less than 15% likelihood of relapse. That's a beautiful place to be, that 5-year marker. But there's no services that will get them there. Remember, the acute care setting stopped at 16 weeks, maybe a month, maybe 2 months, residential. But there's an aftercare program and there's NA. But there are no real management services for this person because there's no billable. We don't treat this like a disease as an industry. We let go of them at the end of 16 weeks. That's a mistake. And that's where the politicians can make a difference. They need to rewrite Medicaid legislation so that not only does the family get included, we stop only chasing after the person that's addicted, which is just ridiculous. This is a disease of the family, not the person. Or I should say, not just the person. Yeah. It's the whole family system. So we need a family system disease management model and not an individual. We talk about patient-centered care. That's not going to work. We've already tried that. Okay? They don't relapse in treatment centers. They relapse when they're home with us. Yeah. Who better to take care of them than us? We love this person. These treatment centers, God bless them for what they do, but it's not like they love this person. We love this person. Their family.
Right. What do you say to substance abuse clinics? And I'm just going to use the ones here in our city who will sit here and say to you, well, Roy, we get it and we understand, but we're doing, we're doing the education, the advocacy, the awareness. We're doing the STEP program. We're doing this. And, why are you saying that it's not working, or do you not think we're doing enough? And then what do you think of harm reduction? Because that's a whole nother ball of wax.
Okay, I'll take one and then the other. The treatment center's response is predictable, and I would do it the same way if I did it. You want everybody to stay in their lane. You want cardiologists to stay in cardiology. Okay, they don't belong in general practice or family practice. They need to be cardiologists. Okay, the same's true for the treatment centers. You want the treatment centers to do their acute care thing. If we start to say, no, you've touched them, therefore you're responsible for them forever, that's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. The thing is, we haven't created an alternate site outside of acute care health system for this particular type of care delivery. We don't have a plan of treatment. They've got a diagnosis, but they don't have a care plan. That's absurd. They've got a disease, but there's no continuity. There's no algorithm of care. Well, that's got to stop. It's not going to stop until the politicians apply capital money to this. Then it'll flourish. I would like to see our governments, both local, county, and state and federal, get together and start to focus on a model that manages the disease in the family and not just the individual. Because I can guarantee you, if mom has been going through this for a while, she's in depression. What are we doing about that? Because now she's not doing well at work. If she loses her benefits, then all the other people in the family lose their benefits. This is really a bad ripple. So is the employer a stakeholder? Yes, they are. Okay, well, what are we giving the employer? Well, we could give them the employer to family table book to have ready when somebody brings this up. And that way they get over to the local, in Lowell at least in this scenario, Family Solution Final Learning Center, and now they've got access to knowledge.
So now you have the center here in Massachusetts.
Well, you do too. It's on my website. Anybody can pull it down. And there's an instructor's manual for certification. There's a user manual on how to set one up. All the content, all 32. I have a TV episode series that's being played in some of your counties, by the way, on your access TV stations. And it's being played across the United States. So we are able to give you all the content you need at no cost. All we ask is that you set it up and you embrace the family and the community stakeholders, because they're going to be your referral source. Wouldn't that be great if a coach could sit there and say, listen, I think what you're going through is terrible, but it's not uncommon. And I'm going to give you this book, but it's just the beginning. I want you to get in touch. There's a flyer in there for the Lowell Family Solution Final Learning Center. If you get in touch with them, they'll start to educate you and your family. By the way, Paul and Charlie, if a family goes through multidimensional family therapy, which is a type of family therapy, it's been empirically proven that they will reduce relapse by 60%, up to 60%.
Wow.
Because the family went through therapy, and it's only like maybe 6 to 12 sessions. It's not like days of old when you sat on a couch for 6 years. So this is great news. How many families do you think could even know to say, I want, with their managed care call-in on their behavioral health plan, I want to see a therapist? No. I'm smart. I went to the Lowell Family Solution Final Learning Center, and they taught me I'm an educated consumer, so let's cut this out. I want a practicing family therapist that practices multidimensional family therapy. At a minimum, I want Bowen family therapy. These are the three that are recommended by SAMHSA. These have been proven out, and the government wants us to use them. The only way they're going to do that is if we as consumers sit there and say, I'm holding the purse here. And if you're not doing this, then I'm going to go to a group that does. They will kick in and start doing it. The only reason they don't do it is it's a little bit more complicated, a little bit more expensive. But the results are significant. I just said you could cut because this is all about relapse. I just said you could cut the drug epidemic almost in half. According to these statistics, if families would go in and get therapy, it changes the whole game.
Sure does.
So now, what do you think, Roy, in reference to, and you and I spoke about this on the phone, but I'm going to bring it up here, with the stigma that is coming with the fentanyl poisonings? Because I can tell you that with myself, I can't even begin to tell you how many times I have to educate people and reclassify them to let them know that, my son's and what happened to my son was not an overdose. Stop calling it that. My son was smoking marijuana. He did not know the marijuana was laced with xylazine and fentanyl. That is a poisoning. When you are given something you do not know, to your knowledge, that is not an overdose. I cannot go, all three of us cannot go out right now and pour fentanyl into your drinks. You have no knowledge. You pass away. You didn't overdose from your cocktail. You died because I poisoned you. What do you think about that stigma? Because I'm sure you're hearing a lot about it. And also with, xylazine. And as you know, Roy, and Charlie knows, I was yelling and screaming about this when we lost our son last March. And people told me, you're crazy. That can't be the case.
Why do you think they put xylazine? This is rhetorical. into these laced drugs? Why they add this element?
They're saying, well, from my understanding from folks like from the DEA, CDC, HIDA, National Institute of Health, they're saying that it gives them a different type of high and it makes them want to come back for more.
That's true. And it also sedates.
Mhm.
Yes.
So when the high's a little bit longer, okay, which they don't like the fact that fentanyl is kind of a short high.
Yeah.
Stretches it out. This is an advertisement, by the way. But the fact is, they're more sedated later. That's why you see a lot of these people sleeping in tents now. They can't wake up because it's got xylazine in it, and they're just sleeping longer. So the fact is, this drug also, because of its intensity, creates sores.
Yeah.
And so when we're seeing somebody with sores, then we're sitting there thinking, well, you must be a drug addict. Well, we should be thinking those wounds need to be managed. And by the way, you do not use hydrogen peroxide or alcohol. In wound management, which is one of our disease management models that I mentioned before that we were doing in my other career, there's wet to dry, and that's a good thing. There's wet to wet. In this case, this particular, it should be treated with soap and water, and the pad should be moist. We want it to be clean, but we want the wound to be moist. How easy is that to tell everybody?
Yeah.
Now, Paula, what do you know about the drug now? Silence.
I mean, I know enough to where I've gone through a class with Brandeis University, where they talked about the wound care and everything. But of course, when I spoke on it a little bit differently because this was in Andrew's marijuana. He didn't know.
Right.
So as soon as he put the joint to his mouth, because the joint had been sprayed with fentanyl, and you and I know, and Charlie and many other people that are listening and out there, as soon as you put the fentanyl in your mouth, you're done. That's it. It's you're done. There is no, and then there's the misconception that we're all hearing, and I'm sure you are also, Roy, and Charlie knows this, where I have had battles with people, Roy, and I think I mentioned this to you before, where they sit here and they say to me, well, there's no way that fentanyl can be in marijuana. That's just not the case. That's not true. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, seriously, what is wrong with you? Do you not understand that fentanyl is a liquid? And how are you going to sit here and tell me that you're hearing that when it reaches a certain temperature, it dissolves itself and it no longer has the effect? Then why is it that the folks who unfortunately are addicted are taking the pills, crushing them, putting them in tinfoil, and then heating them up with a lighter? I mean, seriously, come on. Like, do we need to go back to 5th grade to explain science to people? And I think that's where we're at, Roy. And that's why I kind of asked you the question, what do you feel, or what is your thought process on the stigma that continues to be surrounding the crisis that we're happening? 300 a day is a lot. And they are saying that the numbers are going to go higher.
Where do they distribute your drugs?
Here, Charlie, where it's that's the treatment centers.
Yeah,
And the safe houses.
Okay, I can tell you, Cleveland, it's 176th Street, Euclid. It's I can actually name the street corners. Okay,
yeah,
that's how much we know about the delivery system. So we know where it is. Where do we find it in its growth? It's in the suburbs. Okay, and how is that possible? Emojis. Paula, you had mentioned to me the lack of awareness of emojis. How is that possible that we don't? I was counseling. I'm also a certified mental health coach. I was counseling a young man who had actually been arrested for going 100 miles an hour in a 25 zone. But the fact is, when the courts came over to me, he was buying marijuana in his parking lot, and his parents were driving him off early. He just did an emoji,
Yes.
I was in the far corner of the parking lot. He picked up his pot and went on into the high school. So, and this was a good school. These are good kids, quote unquote. Moms, if your kid is going off to prom, you've wasted a year by not talking to him about this, because he's going off to college. He might have been a good kid in high school. College away from you, completely different game. He's a good
Right.
kid, never do it. Okay, good luck with that.
Yeah,
Does-
as much
does
as you, for the way you raise your children,
Yeah.
you know, 30 minutes to an hour in the college atmosphere, they can turn around in a different direction that quickly, just based on peer pressure and trying to fit in, or just sitting in a dorm somewhere with some other kid, and that's it. Things turn,
you might.
tables turn.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Roy.
I agree. So why don't we showing them a video of somebody that is just gyrating on the floor on H-bomb
Hmm.
and let them know H-bomb you get that on the internet, no problem.
Yeah.
Spice, no problem. What Spice is going to do to you? I mean, you can sit there and give dramatic cases of a guy stripping himself down and running on the top of cars in the middle of a traffic jam. That's pretty dramatic. Or you can sit there and say, watch this person as he swears at his mother and calls her all kinds of just vicious names. And you think,
Yeah.
oh my God, how could that kid do that? He's on Spice. Well, what is Spice? Where does it come from? Well, we'll show you. They need to be shown not just the drug, they need to be shown what it looks like in its worst scenario. Remember the brain? This is your brain?
Yeah.
Hmm.
That really stuck with me. But
Yeah.
more than Dare did. I'm not saying you shouldn't have Dare, but we need to change the medium in which we communicate so that it's the type of medium that they can receive it in. To think that we're going to give them a pamphlet is ridiculous. These kids don't read pamphlets. Okay? Give them in a YouTube. Okay? Give them in a game. Yeah, probably, stumble across that a couple of times.
Hmm.
But
Well,
we need
you know what? But you know what the problem is, Roy? The problem is that the schools,
Right.
especially here,
Yeah.
they I'm only now being allowed to go into the schools, as I mentioned to you on the phone.
Right.
And they literally have a list of items that I cannot talk about.
Right.
And also, hey, you can't use scare tactics. And my answer to them is, so you don't want me to use scare tactics, so then you don't want me to be honest.
Right. Yeah.
Then you want me to sugarcoat what's actually happening out there and what can happen to any child in this school system if they get an emoji with a wedding cake, or because I know the cartel's always changing them, and they just changed them again because I just got the new version. And a parent doesn't know what that is, but the child does, or they're getting it dropped off to them by Uber, your local post office, UPS, FedEx. I mean, come on. But you don't want me to show that someone might be in the morgue with a tag on their foot, because that's a scare tactic. So then how do you want to truly talk about what's happening in our world today and the crisis that's occurring when this is what's happening? And if you don't want them to know the truth, then what is it that you want them to know?
Well, then we get back to the new dynamic of what is the truth and who's telling it to us. The fact is, these kids know that this stuff is bad. I don't think we need to raise their awareness on the fact that this is not a good place to go. But they're still experimenting with it.
Yes.
So what causes them to experiment with it? I mean, when we get down to the root of psychology, what's wrong with this child? Well, it may be something that happened earlier in their life. It's like, oh my gosh, Roy, we're going to get down to that. It's like, well, that's where they came from. So the fact is, if it's the mother and the father and the sister and them sitting together and they're all discussing this, that's completely different than the mother talking to the kid on the way to school and saying, by the way, don't do it.
Right.
There's a completely different dynamic. If you get the family and all of its different elements, the individuals, and if they're functional and they have the potential to contribute, meaning they know what they're talking about, then that whole family system becomes a defensive model.
Yeah.
That's what we want. We want these little pods of families that are defensive in their positioning. We've got to win back the American family. I'm not talking about politics. I'm talking about this is a genocide. They are killing our families.
Yeah, and unfortunately, as you know, because you mentioned it, the cartel doesn't care because
Okay.
that's
For
their
money.
end game.
Yeah, yeah. For
Yeah,
money.
yeah,
And China's more than happy to do it to us. I mean, no, excuse me. Correction. We're doing it to ourselves. That's
Mm.
the irony. We are actually killing ourselves. I could go up and down my street, and if I were to be able to really see inside of these households, I'd say there's addictions of some type in most of them. Okay? Addiction isn't new to the family.
right.
What needs to be new to the family are the resources. There isn't one place, Charlie. There isn't one place that only focuses on educating the families
Mm.
in your county. This is all they do. They don't do treatment. They don't, do some mental health. They don't do anything else. All they do is knowledge.
Wow.
That's what we need.
Amen. Yeah.
Knowledge pods.
Absolutely.
So with that, then where do we take this? Well, once again, the politicians, whether they're a woman or a man, they need to man up or woman up, and they need to come to the table and they need to put cash on the table that is oriented towards helping our community. And you sit there and say, "Oh, Roy, give me a break! Don't you read anything? We're doing all of that." Yeah, and you left the families out.
Mm.
You literally don't do really anything with them. And you might say, "Well, no, wait a second. We bring them in while their child is or their spouse is here at the center, and we have like classes for them, and we're teaching them." How's that working out?
Mm.
You
Yeah.
ask them to come to a brick and mortar and to sit down with you, and you talk to them. Was that a dialogue? Did you create anything? Are you even aware of? Can you metric that? Can you measure that? I'm telling you that if we can get into the family and be at the family table, and they're passing the corn around, and somebody's getting up for another glass of milk, that's the dialogue we want to be in. That's the only dialogue that matters if we want to change this. The families can change this.
Yeah.
I agree.
They're the only ones that can change this epidemic.
I agree. Education, where you can listen
Knowledge.
and learn. Yep. And it just,
You empower a
like,
family with knowledge, they're unstoppable.
yeah. And you mentioned about, how we talked about the AIDS epidemic and, and did everything we can involving the families, educating them.
Mm-hmm.
That's so true because that was a piece of me and a piece of my family and what we were going through. And before, initially it was a taboo thing. You wanted to stay away from it, regardless of if a person was your own blood. You just kind of stayed away from it. You didn't want nothing to do with it, whether it was even taking care of that relative. It was just
Mm-hmm.
a
Right.
thing to stay away from. And then eventually, as you get educated and learn how to protect yourself and learn how to educate yourself, so the next person in your family doesn't um,
Right.
getting diagnosed with it and so on and so forth. So it's so true. And I'm a living. I can kind of just I lived it. I lived it so much, and I know that that's the proper way of doing it is to educate the family because I seen how close, at the tail end of my relatives, several relatives, when they did pass away, um, people were more educated, more sympathetic, had some empathy for the next person. So you are so right on that, Roy, and when it comes to family and believe it or not, sometimes these things that we do touch and dibble and dabble with or get addicted to is based on a breakdown in the family.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, very often.
yeah,
Childhood trauma, the ACEs screening tools. I mean, we've got mass screening tools for alcohol. We got DATs for the drugs. We got great screening tools. We got great clinical algorithms. But unless the family is there to really bring this all across the table, Charlie, to your point, you break the chain. Okay, if you do that. Did you all get any mental health while you were going through any of this?
no, actually, it was just just the elders in my family, really,
Yeah,
it's
that's
kind
good.
of tough. Yeah.
They loved you into it, and that's usually really good stuff. By the way,
Yeah.
I don't question that at all. Do you think it would have been a benefit if somebody had like taken you all and said, "Hey, we need to nurture on this"? We'll show
Yeah,
you
I
what.
would. The only problem that we had back then was just allowing people in the house, trusting,
Yeah.
you really um did you
Trust.
trust someone from the outside? Did you trust anyone, whether from an agency, from a department? Did you trust that? You just it was a fear factor.
Yeah.
So the best way to do it is trying to educate each other. And some people within my family were in the fields, so
Mm,
they can kind of pass it on to us.
nice.
And that's how we were able to kind of absorb it as a family. But back then it was you really didn't want to talk to too many people outside your family. So I am so happy to hear that you guys have implemented this and come up with this because it's so important, so important.
It's all in a book.
Yes, actually, I'm going to support you as much as I can with the book, with the website. I'm going to actually be picking Paula's brain and grab as much as I can so I can share it on the page on Facebook and actually Instagram and definitely get that word out because you never know. Social media is such a huge plus, in my eyes. So when I can share things like that, especially your organization, it's going to catch some people. It's going to catch some people's eyes.
Well, I'd
And
be happy to help you set up learning centers across Massachusetts and Rhode Island, New Hampshire. I think it would make a difference for you. I'll give it to you for free. So he's got to pay for my hotel room and meals, but I travel like give me a chance to go back to the Divine Mercy Shrine in Stockbridge, which I always love. And I actually spent about 2 years at Northeastern University as a freshman, sophomore, and I've always
very nice.
Boston. And I am a Boston Bruins fan too.
Love it. Love it.
Well, we definitely have to get you back here to Massachusetts for sure, Roy. Somehow, whether it's an event or even Achieve Greatness's dinner, we'd love to get you here and definitely dive into what you're talking about because I think it's important. Unfortunately, it's not being done, as you know. I mean, you follow many states, including ours, and you talk about, we were talking about stigma, but it's kind of what Charlie was just speaking of now, and I'll kind of piggyback on what he said. You have families who do not want to talk about how their loved one passed away,
Right.
even if it was a fentanyl poisoning. They just don't want to talk about it because to them it's an embarrassment. You look at the obituary and, they died suddenly in their sleep. Well, is that truly what happened? Because you actually know the truth, but that's not what they're putting out there. So I actually just got affiliated with another organization here in the city. And we're going to start having grief, kind of classrooms for Spanish and Portuguese community because no one's really listening to them. They're not paying attention because they're some of the folks who do not want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about what happened. They don't want to talk about that they lost their child because they were an addict. They don't want to talk about the mental health. I mean, you talk about mental health, I'm telling you, Roy, we could do a whole week of podcast just to talk about the mental health aspect that comes with different cultures and how they do not want to talk about this.
Oh, certainly, and they won't. I mean, you're not going to make them. I mean, it's not gonna happen.
So true.
The first goal is get them to talk to each other about it. Recognizing unidentified stress and trauma together. Recognizing unidentified stress and trauma. That acronym is TRUST. TRUST. And that's a program that we offer. But there's a whole bunch of other areas. Kinship. Your daughter is taking heroin. She's got 2 kids. The dad's out of the picture. Are you going to take care of the kids? Because eventually that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And if the answer is no, then you're going towards foster care. By the way, seminar number 27 will help you to get ready for that. Otherwise, we got a program for kinship. It's on our website also. But how about re-entry? I mean, let's catch them. I just purchased 800 books. There's a wholesaler in downtown Cleveland. He actually bought the Hostess factory, and it has 1.4 million books underneath his roof.
Wow.
And on tour, he pointed to a shipping dock. He said, I just received 60 pallets of books, sight unseen, from a wealthy man down in Hinckley who was a recovered alcoholic, and he collected books. So a lot of them were self-help. And so after the tour, I said, can I come in, and I think I might want to purchase one of those or a couple of them. He said, I'll tell you what, I'll put 1,000 on the bookshelf. You come in every Thursday and you pick out which one you want. We'll throw it in a Gaylord box. And when you got enough and it's tipping over, you'll buy it. And so I did that. I have 800 books now. So I'm taking those self-help books. They're really good quality books. I am a chemical dependency counselor assistant, known as a CDCA. And with that, I kind of know what to look for. And so there were some books that I thought, oh no, that's getting a little weird. Because you never really know in the middle of the chapters where they're going to go.
Yeah.
But these are good quality books. And I'm going to take them to the jails, and I'm going to give them to the librarian there. I'm going to take them to drug court. When they start with drug court, they're going to be around for a good 16 weeks, depending on how your court system works. Every time they come in, the judge could say, so what did you learn in the book you chose when you first started here? And it's kind of a skin on the game, self-help. And the recovery houses. Recovery houses love them. And just recently, I had a group that said, Roy, we'll give you computers, and you can take those with you. So I've got these refurbished, and what they do is they go down to the local prison system and have the inmates refurbish the computers, and they were donating them to like the police force down in New Orleans. And I said, I'll take those, because these recovery houses, these people are there for the night, before they go back out the next day. They could be taking college classes. They could be looking for a job. I mean, why don't you give it to me? So now I include that as long as I have the inventory.
Wow. Beautiful,
every county in Ohio. We could do this in all the states.
Yeah, why not?
Knowledge.
Why not? All right, I'm gonna kind of wrap this up. I really appreciate your knowledge, Roy, and I'm gonna do my own homework and follow up everything that you're doing from the website, everything that you recommend, because I'm already in support of it, just based on this interview and this podcast.
Now, can I have you on my podcast?
I'm ready whenever you're ready.
The Voice of Families and Addiction, and we'll do it from your perspective, because you have a lot to contribute.
Yes, I sure would. I would do that in a heartbeat. So you just let me know.
Thank you.
And I'll definitely be ready. All right. Good.
Thank
Paula,
you so much,
thank
Roy,
you.
for joining us. I so appreciate it. And you and I will absolutely be staying in touch.
I like that. Take care.
All right. God bless you. Take care. All right. So, Paula. God bless you. Hey, go ahead.
Great guest again, huh?
Yeah, that was fascinating. That was definitely a book of knowledge. Excuse the pun, but he definitely has a whole lot to offer, and we need to try to get that to Massachusetts, but not only Massachusetts, but here in New Bedford.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and I know you had posted the flyer before, so yes, please go on to our website. I think you have that on there, correct? Yes.
Yeah.
Go onto our website to purchase the tickets. It's going to be an amazing event. We at Achieve Greatness cannot do what we do without the partnerships that we have. And the kids, we are getting involved with youth court here in New Bedford and Fall River. And that's going to be huge, because the kids that we're actually getting involved with, we are going to have them at our dinner to give them an award. So we're hoping that the community really comes, and steps up and supports not only Achieve Greatness, but the youth that we're working with and supporting, and continuing, what we're doing with the advocacy, awareness, and education, but also with the sports and basketball.
Exactly. So I'll definitely share that again, that flyer, and just do our promotion. I actually reached out to someone today, so you should be getting a donation soon. Um,
Oh, well, thank you. I know I need to. Phil said we need to contact Ronnie because he would be good at putting this together.
yeah, definitely. Um, Me personally, I want to reserve a whole table, so I definitely we'll talk off camera.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Absolutely. But yes. So thank you. Next week, I'm looking to have another wonderful guest. I won't say who just yet because I
mhm.
asked if they could kind of join us, but it might actually be a political figure that we will be having on next Wednesday.
Good, good. And Paula, if think about this, I have a conflict that came up today. But if we can change the time to 7:30, that's all up to you. If
Yeah,
no, it's no.
no problem. That's not a
Um,
problem.
all right. And
Just let's make sure we let the viewers know, and I'll let you know in reference to that person if they're able to do a 7:30.
okay. It's the only reason is I have some other obligations with the
No,
radio
no,
station,
that's okay. That's okay. Understood.
and so I got to be a team player and get it done. So this is the first step is asking you.
No, no, no. Absolutely. Listen, I understand, and I'll let you know throughout the week who we're going to have on, and eventually, I also want to get on Jim from Families Against Fentanyl.
Nice, nice. Well, I'm ready.
Told
Ready
you,
to hear it.
listen. I've been busy.
That's it. It's become this podcast has become a part of your conversation, and it,
Podcast is becoming my therapy.
yeah, it's a good thing. And but as you know, you can call me anytime, and
Yes.
so
Thank you. Well, you have a good night, and thank you
all right,
everyone for listening once again. We hope that we continue to educate all of you, bring you forth awareness, and just really let all of you know. Please, please, please talk to your family members, talk to your children. Fentanyl is getting worse. They do not care. The numbers are going higher, and unfortunately, you're the ones you're the only ones when you're home at the table, as Roy said, that is sitting in front of your child and can seriously talk to them and talk to them about the emojis and come to one of the events that Achieve Greatness does. We're going to be having one on the 20th at New Bedford High. We're hopefully going to be having it. We're waiting on the confirmation, but that should be coming. And every month we're going to be doing this because it is something that needs to happen. Well, again, we're all about, I say this all the time and I will continue to say it. Our son's legacy is not how he passed away, but how many lives he's about to save.
exactly, exactly. Yes. All right, Paula, great time as always, and I'll definitely talk to you probably as soon as tomorrow. So
Okay.
you have a great night.
Thank you.
God
You
bless.
too.
All right, thank you. My great co-host. I'm so happy to have this show. That way, I can kind of talk with her every week, and we can talk about fentanyl. Um, it's so important. All right. You can also reach me at WNB1 Radio, as you see up there in the logo. I am on WNB1 Radio every Tuesday night, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., serving you R&B music on the rocks, chilled music with a chilled host, where you get to listen to the music you love the most. Here is my information. Charlie Perry, creative contact host of the marketing team. Um, Creative content host and part of the marketing team. And if you need to email me or get involved with WNB1 Radio, there is my email, WNB1marketingteam@gmail.com. There is also a QR code. Scan it, take a picture of it. There you go. You go right to the site and see all our fabulous hosts. The number at WNB1.com is 774-425-2631. Feel free to download the app to your devices, whether it's Apple or Android, and listen to us 24 hours, 7 days out of the week. Plenty of hip hop music for you. And that's WNB1 Radio. The Also, I want to bring up we have a ugly sweater um, ugly sweater night coming up, and get the flyer right here. And here it is. That's the Ugly Christmas Sweater Party, December 8th, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. at 222 Union Street, New Bedford, Mass. Purchase tickets at WNB1.com. The early bird price is $20, $25 at the door. Includes fun, food, and cash bar. This is put on by Latinas of South Coast, and also South Coast Chamber of Commerce, along with the Harbor Hotel at 222 Union Street, and your favorite radio station, WNB1 Radio. We are looking to do many things in the community and special events like this, comedy shows that we have. We are looking to do many of those things every month, most likely. And so just keep listening to my podcast here with Paula every Wednesday from 7:30 to probably 8:30. It's usually an hour, 30 minutes to an hour. We have our guest on where we talk about fentanyl. All right, this is the closing of this podcast, and feel free to email me at reallycharliepodcast@gmail.com if you want to be a guest, whether it's on this podcast or another, so we can highlight you, whether you're a singer, an author, whatever it may be. Just think this podcast is a great idea for you, just get in touch with me. All right, I am going to end this podcast with my favorite song by Peter Lionel Walker. Yeah, let's see. Here we go. God bless everyone. See you next Wednesday, or see you Tuesday on the Really Charlie podcast on WNB1 Radio. But I'm here. Take care.
It's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Bump into your broadcast, grab a chair, fill your glass. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Bump into your broadcast, grab a chair, fill your glass.